Muy buenas, ¿cómo estáis? Hoy tenemos a un entrevistado que no es tan común para lo que suelen ser nuestras entrevistas, que suelen ser con artistas. Esta vez tenemos a nada más y nada menos que al director de uno de los festivales más importantes de Europa, como es Bloodstock. Así que no voy a demorarme más. Tenemos aquí a Adam Gregory. Adam, hello.
Hello,
Have
here we are.
you have you understood some of the words I said in Spanish?
Absolutely none. Sorry. I'll better swat up on that one.
Ah, there were nice words. So,
Thank you.
as I said in Spanish, you are the director of the festival Bloodstock
Yeah,
in the UK, um, and here we know in Spain some festivals in Europe, a part of the Spanish, of course, but for example, Hellfest, Graspo, Wacken, and we know Bloodstock if we are focused in this heavy metal world because it's
yeah,
a great festival, but not for most of the people, which is not very concerned about all the festivals in Europe, you know.
yeah.
So now, after the festival season in the last summer, you announced some of the bands for the next year, like Killswitch Engage, Megadeth, In Flames, Anthrax. But I'd like to know, first of all, how long or how much time do you need to do a festival since the first day until the day of the festival? You know?
Yeah. I mean, generally, where I guess when you start putting a festival together and it's smaller, you can kind of get everything going in kind of 8, 9 months potentially. Where we are today, um, for us to put on 2023's festival, we started 18 months before the festival. So not just booking the bands are the big one, obviously, because you've got to have a draw and a pull for people to come along. So by the time, as you know, for Bloodstock this year, we announced, I think it was 9 bands on the weekend of Bloodstock for 2023. Well, those conversations have been happening for 6, 7 months before the festival came. Um, and then you're looking at your infrastructure, your site, and your dates, and your licensing, and everything else. So it's about 18 months, I guess, from start to finish now.
Uh-huh. And Bloodstock is one of the biggest festivals in Europe and of course in the UK. But I would like to know, since your point of view inside the organization, how the festival born.
What? Sorry, I missed that bit.
How the festival born? You know?
How it was born?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, basically, it was. I mean, we're independent, so we're a family.
Yeah.
Mum, sort of dads and sisters and brothers and everything else. We're not a corporation or a PLC or anything else like that. So, basically, years ago, 2000, the year 2000. My dad was just sitting in a pub over the road from a venue, and they were chatting about music and shows and things like that. And one of them mentioned and said, "There's actually nowhere in the UK because download didn't exist then. Monsters of Rock had finished a number of years before, and they were just saying, look, there's nowhere you can go to listen to rock and metal bands or anything else." And jokingly, after a few beers, one of them said to my dad, "You should start one, Paul," because my dad's an artist, so he's a bit of an entrepreneur. He'll do anything. And he went, "Yeah, I will." And literally got up out his seat, walked over to the venue, which at that time was the Assembly Rooms in Derby, and just literally booked it for the following year, without having a clue how he was going to do it, what he was going to do, who was going to book. The benefit he had was, Paul, my dad was an artist, so paintings and everything else, and he'd been doing since 1984 Saxon's albums. So he's the artist behind Saxon's album artwork. And he just gave Biff a ring and said, "Biff, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to headline this show next year." And the friendship was such as Biff just went, "Yeah, all right, yeah, I'll do that." And that was it. It was literally at that point, we booked the headliner, booked the venue, and not a clue what we were doing. And Paul at that time was in cahoots with his partner, Vince Brotheridge, and literally just started the show from that. So, 2001, Bloodstock was born at that time, was just a one day show.
Mm-hmm. And after the beginnings of the festival, um, which have been the highlights of this process? You know, because sometimes during this 21 years, I think, since I think you have to know which one had been the moments where when the festival has changed to another level, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we went from indoor. So we ran as an indoor festival for 5 years up until 2005. And then we took the decision because we were selling out the indoor and the capacity was sort of 2 or 3 years was being reached. So 2005 was quite a standout year because that was the first year we went outside. I think 2007, again, we were still growing as an outdoor event and sort of getting a foothold. The stage was hit by lightning in a thunderstorm, and it was kind of quite surreal moments. But I think we sort of wind forward probably from there to 2014, 15, when we were starting to hit 15, 16,000 people attending, and when you're looking out on the stage at the audience that are there to watch pretty much a show that you've put together, that for me was probably one of those big realization moments about you've kind of, I don't want to say made it because that's a bit arrogant. I think you've achieved something that's meaningful for a lot of people at that point. So it's not really for me very much around we've got this band or that band. It's more along the lines of we've got 20,000 people in a field for a reason that you've helped, to curate, and you're creating memories. And I think that's something that every single year now for me is exactly the same. You're creating brand new memories. We had at the weekend, somebody messaged us that I think 2019, he proposed to her on the main stage and they got married yesterday, and it's a big part of the festival that you've helped to, they've met at Bloodstock, they've got engaged at Bloodstock, and they've now married because of something you've put together. So it's life-changing for people, which is amazing.
Yeah. And you said before, of course, Dallo Festival is in the UK.
Yeah.
How difficult is for you to, I don't know if say fight against a big corporation as Live Nation?
Well, look, we've got a good relationship with Download. They come to our show, we go to their show. They are a rock festival, and they put on a big variety of different rock. They have metal bands, of course they do. But they'll put on your Metallicas and your Slipknots and your Iron Maidens and things like that. So they are putting on those, sort of legacy bands. Whereas with Bloodstock, we are a metal festival first and foremost. So 99% of our lineup is definitely metal. We like to bring in a lot of European, a lot of global acts that ordinarily wouldn't necessarily get the chance to play on such a big stage. We have a lot of unsigned bands, so we do a big road show that goes out. So the focus for us is different to Download. They are a big commercially viable enterprise, whereas we are an independent show, and we run slightly differently. So we don't compete. The fact that we are also there June, we're August, we're kind of the opposite ends of the festival calendar as well. So there's no real sort of impact on their event or our event from likewise. So, and we do speak a lot, or Vicky and Simon, who book the bands, talk a lot about bands to Download, so that there's no crossover and we're not sort of standing on each other's toes unnecessarily. So yeah, we're lucky that we have a good relationship with them.
Yeah, in Spain, there was a dialogue festival a few years before the pandemic, and
yeah,
it was not the same relationship with the other festivals. It was like, okay, the monster with the money is here, and I don't know if you know, but another festival called Mad Cool Festival is from Live Nation here in Spain, and people from the music industry says that Live Nation is focused on the money, not on the music and in the experience. Do you think that is the same in the UK? Download just wants the money of the people, or they are focusing doing a good heavy metal festival, as for example you that you are a family, as you said, and you want to do a heavy metal festival.
Yeah, I mean, look, with Bloodstock, for us, it's very passionate about what we do. We ran. It wasn't about money. We didn't make money for 12 years. Doing this, it was a labor of love, and your houses are on the line and everything else. So with what we do, there's a lot of passion and emotion behind putting that festival on, and we want to achieve those, as I said to you earlier on, those memories. We want to make those experiences of people. with what Download do. Live Nation, there's no pulling punches. They're a commercial entity. They're a business, and they've got to be profitable. They've got shareholders and everything else. They're responsible to people, so they've got to put on a show that's viable. And I completely get that. Are they just corporate money grabbers? No, I don't think they are. Not in the UK. There's a very, very good team of people in the UK that run Download and other events. I think they do a great job. I think they deliver a great show. It is more commercial than Bloodstock. I won't say it isn't. Of course it is. But do they care about the fans? Absolutely, I think they do. Yes. And I'd be lying if I said that they didn't. Do they do a different show to us? Yes. I think if you go to Download, and we go, you do feel that more sort of corporately sponsored type of event, but it's still a great, great show with great, great bands. With Bloodstock, the fans do say that it differs because it feels, a lot sort of warmer, I guess a bit warmer, a bit more family orientated, a bit more like home. And that's very, very hard, I think, to replicate when you've got Download that's got to bring in 60, 80, 90,000 people. We're bringing in 20,000 people, so we can manage that process and that feeling a little bit easier probably than bigger events can do. But no, they do a great show, they do a great event, and it's a relationship in the UK that for us works well.
Awesome. And now the headliners are getting older and older and older, and it's hard to find new headliners, which brings that amount of people. Like Iron Maiden, Metallica is like stadiums bands, and the new maybe it's different in the UK. Like you compare with Spain, because for example, if I'm not sure about that, but I was in I don't know when, like 8 years ago, I was in an Alter Bridge show there in London, and the O2 was full. And here is a concert which is done, for example, here in Barcelona, in Ramataz, which is like 2,000 people. It's like a huge difference. Do you think that will be hard to find that headliners for the future, and also that you have to focus in the experience that people feels in the festival, that kind of memories you said before before that in the bands? Maybe you have to focus on that experience to bring the same amount of people.
I think you can do both. It's we've experienced it. We've had bands on. We've had it with Hatebreed. When we first booked Hatebreed, there was a lot of angst about why are you bringing that band over, that sort of crap. Then all of a sudden they do a great show, people absolutely love it. Oh, you've got to book Hatebreed again, that was amazing. More recently we did it with Partway Drive. We'd seen Partway Drive at Ali Pali, and it was an amazing show, such an energetic band, and with all the fire and explosions, it was great. And we booked them as a headliner for Bloodstock, and they hadn't headlined anywhere in the UK as big as a festival. So we were their first headline show, and they were nervous. We weren't. We actually had a confidence that they would be a great show, and sort of we got a lot of stick, a lot of flack initially for booking them as a headliner, and why have you wasted that slot on a band like Partway? A lot of people after the show were coming back on social media going, yeah, we were wrong. You were actually right. That was an amazing show, and it's kind of elevated that band. So I think one of the jobs that we sort of take on board, whereas let's say Download, they will play a lot of these legacy bands because they've got to hit the number, and then they do have different stages, and they do have different bands playing those stages. But whereas we'll take more of a bold sort of statement because we can afford to do that. So one or two of our headliners traditionally can be those step up bands. Killswitch Engage in the UK, haven't really sort of headlined a festival before, so this will be their first headline show, which will be great for them. Partway hadn't done it before. Gojira hadn't done it before. Ghost hadn't done it before. But yet they've all headlined Bloodstock, and it's kind of helped propel them into that status of a headliner. So we do put a lot of focus, and Vicky and Simon, when they do book the bands, they do look at, and we talk to the fans, and we engage with the peer groups. Who do you want to see as that next headliner? Who should we be sort of giving those opportunities to? And to be honest, I think everybody that's done those headline shows for us has stepped up. They've delivered. So I wouldn't say that we've had a bad headliner in certainly the last 10 years that you could say, well, I wish we hadn't booked them. Everybody that we've booked has kind of gone on. You look at Ghost, we had Ghost a few years ago as a headliner, and they were at that point not that well known in the UK. They are selling out stadium shows all over the UK now. Big stadium shows, to the fact that probably we couldn't afford them now. And that's been a nice thing to see, that elevation of those bands. So yeah, we'll do what we can. We run Metal to the Masses, which is we're into, I think, 30 different cities now, including a number in Europe, where we basically look for those next big bands. So, those unsigned bands, those emerging bands, we give them that platform within metal to, very much like what Wacken do with Battle Metal. We've got a UK version of that, but we've made it very, very crystal clear. Bands don't sell tickets for shows. Bands don't have to, pay any money to us or anything else. All they have to do is come up and deliver their best show. That's it. And then we have an industry panel that then judges those bands across the heats, and we pick 30, 40 winners from that year's heats that then come and play at the festival. And we give them that footprint. We give them that opportunity to talk to press, to showcase themselves and sort of put themselves forward. And the hope is that over then the sort of subsequent years, some of those bands will elevate up to the higher stages and higher points on the show and become more known. And we're seeing that with a number of bands at the moment that played Bloodstock in the past, that we've had back, over a few years, that have played main stage now, and they're getting better spots and being more known. So it's nice to see that as well. And I think festivals have a responsibility, and promoters have a responsibility, to try and encourage and find those next Iron Maidens, Slipknots, Metallicas, because you're right, they're all getting older, and they're all looking to think, what, we've had our go. You look at Slayer, one of the big four, sort of, they had their last UK show at Bloodstock, and it was amazing for us, but they're such a big band that people miss. Who's replacing Slayer now?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about discover new bands, or make bands grow up, and that is that you are very passionate with heavy metal and with the bands. How do you discover that new bands? Are you going to local shows? Are you listening to them on Spotify? How is, for you, the director of a festival, the way to discover new bands?
Me personally, I sort of listen to a lot. I'll scour social media and I'll see bands pop up. People say, "Oh, I've heard this band, they're great," and you have a listen, and you sort of see where they are. You do a bit of research. To be fair, Vicky and Simon, who predominantly book the bands for Bloodstock, Vicky's out at shows all the time. She's out with Corey Taylor at the moment with her husband, sort of on his UK shows. And they'll sort of look at the support acts and sort of see who's about. So she's constantly got her eye on the ball with who's big, who's kind of making waves, who are those breaking bands to come through. And where we do see those nuggets of gold, we'll sort of look to try and do something with them. So it doesn't always work, as you know. You don't have a wish list of bands and you can book every single one. It's all down to what they're doing and if they're available. But where there's an opportunity to bring something new through, we will do. We had Bloodywood at Bloodstock this year, over from India. An amazing sound, an amazing band. So we'll look at some of those bands that are coming over from Europe, from different countries, and we've had some Iranian bands previously that have gone down superbly well. So where there's an opportunity to showcase something different, we certainly want to do that, because it's very much around how the band is received with our audience. We know pretty much our audience and what they do and don't like. So if we can deliver something new that they haven't heard of, that's great for them as well.
Yeah. And how difficult is for you to negotiate or to make a deal with the headliners? Because there are very big bands as headliners, but as you said, you trust on the new generation of headliners, or you are looking for that headliner that maybe in the future, like for example Power Drive, Ghost, or whatever, is a new headliner. How difficult is for you to negotiate that, because sometimes people in social media is like, okay, bring Metallica, okay, bring Slayer, okay, bring whatever. But how difficult is to organize, like, okay, that day one headliner, that day another one, and that day another one.
Yeah. Again, you know, I've booked some of the headliners for next year. Vicky's booked some, Simon's booked some. It's difficult. You've got to have internal conversations. You've got to have agreements on where you want to take it and what kind of bands you want to look for. But where Bloodstock sits in, I don't want to say the pecking order, but ultimately where we sit within the realm of events in the UK, we will work towards a certain size of headliner. So, you know, we won't look at Metallica or Iron Maiden because, quite simply, with our capacity of the festival, it will take the whole budget we've got for booking one band. And it's not worth our time in doing that. What we'd rather do is put on a great headliner, which is what we sort of try and work towards. But for us, it's more important that the whole show is a great show. So from the opening band to the closing band, you've got quality. You know, so we don't look for fillers. We don't look for bands that are just going to fill a slot. We want a band that's got not necessarily just a following, but a great sound. That the fans are going to come to the show. They're going to discover something new, and they're going to that band's going to walk away with a few thousand new followers, which is amazing. So it's very much around balancing the overall lineup across 4 stages with 120 different bands to give. For us, we want Bloodstock to be the headliner. You know, as much as you bands are the headliners per day, the actual show, in the same way we've got Glastonbury in the UK, which sells out before they even announce the band because it's Glastonbury. Yeah. You know, we're looking for the similar ethos with Bloodstock. We want people to come along knowing that the fact is, no matter who we book, it's going to be a great show. We're never going to please everybody because you can't. There's so many different tastes in music, and when it comes to metal, there's so many different genres and subgenres of metal. You know, you doom fans and your thrash and everything else, and you sort of your old school power metal stuff like that. You can't appease everyone, so you've got to try and balance your lineup to offer something for everybody. That there's a choice, and if there's something playing on one of the stages that they don't like, there's probably something happening on one of the other stages that they might do. So it's very much around trying to balance that. And if there's nothing on the stages, then okay, is there enough else going on site that you can keep them busy for an hour until a band comes on that they do like? So, you know, it's not always about the bands. It's just about the overall balanced, equal offering of putting on a great show for the weekend for somebody. So that if they're spending their money with us, they feel value.
Yeah. And for example, the last year you had the surprise show of Machine Head, and Machine Head was like 10 years without playing a festival or something like that, 8 or 10 years. That is one of that things that make unique memories for the people.
Yes.
And make that experience even better. Do you know that, or do you think that that kind of things are possible for next editions of the festival, like surprise shows with very big bands like Machine Head or something like that? Is it possible to make with that kind of big bands?
I think it's always possible. I mean, I've Download have done it before with different bands, and it's the first time we've actually done it. But it wasn't a case of that was the plan for months. This was literally, I think, about 6 weeks notice. Again, Vicky's husband Alan, knows Rob Flynn very well. He was coming over to do a UK tour anyway, and they just sort of had a chat, and he thought it would be something really cool to do, But obviously, the fact they've got the tour on it, they couldn't announce it, so it needed to be a surprise because, I think that's more to the magic of it all. So it just became literally nothing other than everything aligned at the right time to make it happen. I think it was a great thing for Machine Head to do. It's the first festival they've played, as you've said, in 10 years. Talking to Rob, and Rob hung around all weekend. He didn't just come for the show and go. He was there every day, and just enjoying himself. And I think that was a good thing as well, because he wasn't pressured into having to perform or be a certain way. He was just allowed to relax, chill out, enjoy himself. And I think he's kind of found his love again for the right kind of festivals. He's a very dedicated artist. He's got a certain want and a certain desire to deliver something, and he wants to deliver the best experience possible for his fans. And when the sort of he hit the stage at Bloodstock, the reaction was absolutely incredible. because nobody expected it. And I think that's what we wanted to achieve. And certainly that's what Rob wanted to achieve as well, because it was a milestone for Rob and Machine Head.
And for you as a festival,
yeah,
probably outside the UK, what's the thing that makes the name of Bloodstock sound in other countries? Like Machine Head only show in a festival in 10 years, Bloodstock a festival. That was the reason I was saying you, like, maybe that kind of things are the shows or the things that makes special to a festival, like, for example, you.
Yeah, I think, if you can do it, and if we can do it, I think it's something worth doing, because I think it's for the fans as well. I think it's a great experience for them to see something ordinarily that they didn't know was going to happen. Or if it's a secret band, it's got to be a band that's worthy of a secret set, that's going to be a good surprise. You don't want to just put a secret band on and say, well, we've put band X on and we're not going to tell you who it is, and it's a band you would ordinarily book. I think with a secret set, it's got to be something a bit special that ordinarily probably wouldn't happen. And I think the way that Machine Head worked, it was because he hadn't done anything for 10 years, nobody expected it to happen. So for that reason, it worked extremely well. So I think you need something that sort of, if you're doing something like a secret set, is outside of the normal for that show, for that festival, or for the time of a band's career, whatever else it may be. It needs to be something unique. So we're not adverse to it, and I think if we can make it happen again, we will. But it needs to be something special that's worthy of that special, that's kind of secret slot. Otherwise, it just becomes the normal, and then you've got pressure on you every year to sort of try and fill that slot with something that's going to be super special. So I think when they happen spontaneously, and usually when a secret set comes up like it did with us, it's not a massive amount of notice. It's quite late notice usually. So we did have to move a few things around and shift a few bands around to make that work.
So, for example, maybe this is a stupid thing, but do you think that could be possible to say to the people, okay, surprise headliner, and do you think that it could be possible, or that it could affect a lot to the selling of tickets?
Yeah. I think with headliners, it's different. People tend to book, in my opinion, they'll book festivals based upon what they know. And they'll book shows based on the fact that, well, we know band A, B, and C are doing those 3 slots over the 3 days. So yeah, that's worth my money. I think the difficulty comes when it's a secret headliner that's announced literally on the stage. You're not going to get your audience there because those fans of those bands don't know it's happening. So they're not necessarily going to be there. You want to attract that band's fan base, who generally have a wider sort of broader taste, but ultimately they are the fans of band X, Y, or Z. I think a secret set works when it's middle of the day, middle of the afternoon, and it's a far bigger band than you'd expect for that time slot. And I think that's where a secret set probably works. But it's got to be unique. It's got to have something. I don't think it would work as a headliner secret set. I mean, prove me wrong. I'm sure there's somebody out there that probably will. But for me, I don't personally think that would work.
Okay. Another topic. The pandemic was so hard for promoters. Well, for the whole world, the music, but for the whole world. For a festival like you, how hard was the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, we missed 1 year, so we were fortunate we only missed one, and because we were at the end of the calendar for festivals, we got, I think it was about 6 weeks notice in 21 that we could go ahead. I think if we'd had 5 weeks notice, we would have had to cancel. So we were very, very close to having to cancel the show because obviously with all the logistics. The financials for that are you have to keep the show running behind the scenes with no income. So you've got no money coming through the door because there aren't any shows. You've then got all the infrastructure that you rely upon that's not available because it's being deployed in the different sort of vaccination centres that had to pop up with cabins and tents and fencing and security. And through the lack of shows, then, when you are able to put a show on, you've got to be able to source everything you need to make that happen. People then, because the industry changed so dramatically over such a short space of time, the cost of everything went absolutely astronomical and through the roof. So our cost base, went up 35-40% year on year as a cost, which pretty much happened for every promoter. And then since the pandemic's allegedly finished, that resource that was there pre-pandemic isn't around anymore, because it was decimated, because people, let's say, that were in the entertainment industry had to go off and find normal paying jobs to pay the wages and pay the bills. So, your stage crews, your lighting teams and everything else are now doing 9-to-5 jobs in wherever just to earn money, and they're not all returning back to the industry, because actually some of them are quite happy doing what they're doing now, because it's normal 9-to-5 hours, not weekends, not late nights or anything else. So it's more sociable. So it's had a big impact. I think the impact will be felt for another 2 or 3 years, I think, for the industry. We suffered. I feel for the events that lost 2 years. As I said, we were very lucky. We only lost the one. But there was a lot of events that we knew that were unable to recover completely, or some that were very, very close to sort of not coming back because it was hard. I think your Live Nations and AEG type of events were sort of in a far better position to sort of see it out than a lot of independents. And I think the independents are the ones that felt the pinch, and it's also as well getting that encouragement for fans to return back to shows, because you've got a big gathering of people, and I think people are still very nervous about that. So it's we're on a long road, but we're getting there.
And in that moment, how important were the refunds of the tickets of the people you had to do, because that was the money you had for the future.
Yeah, I think, look, that was a lifeline for a lot of shows, and I think it was more of a commitment that when we came back, there was an audience to come back for. We were very open, as, to be fair, I think most events that I saw did the same thing, where they offered refund or rollover. And events, certainly independent events, went out there and saying, look, please do support us. We'll happily refund you, but if you can keep your money with us and come the following year, that would be hugely appreciated. And I think that did save many events, and it saved us. We had, I think, from the tickets we'd sold the previous year, we had, I think it was about 93-94% of people rolled their ticket over. So our refund was about 6-7%, which was very, very small.
Yep.
And that was amazing. So that was for us a big tick on the box and a big validation that the fans support the shows. And I think most shows did tend to sort of see those kind of numbers. I think different countries just saw different numbers, but overall, I think it was very encouraging. So yeah, we're ever, I think the industry is forever grateful for the fans doing that.
Have you changed your way of working in the festival after the pandemic in some ways?
We did initially for the first year. We imposed when we first came back in 21. We had, you've got to do testing and everything else to make sure that we're trying to mitigate any potential risk. And we put a lot of hand sanitization points in and sort of push that message home quite hard. For 22, we didn't bother with any testing, because there was no government requirements to do so, or no suggested requirements to do so. But we did retain hand sanitizers, and we made those freely available for everybody to make sure everybody can try and keep themselves, as clean as possible. We said if anybody wants to wear a mask at any point, feel free, and we encouraged our fans not to persecute those people that felt they wanted to wear a mask. It's the freedom to do what you want to do. As it happened, we didn't really see anybody in a mask. So I think the overall consensus was, I think people were just happy to be back. And it was important for us that we maintained as normal a show as possible pre-pandemic. So, we did that, but we just made sure that there was facilitation over and above that if people wanted it to feel a bit more secure.
And during the pandemic, I remember something like European Alliance or something like that. That was like a streaming festival, something like that.
Yes.
And I'd like to know if you have a relationship with the other festivals in Europe, because most of you share the headliners or many bands, because they are touring in Europe and all that stuff. I'd like to know what kind of relationship do you have with another festivals, and for example, if you know some people or some promoters here in Spain from festivals.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got relationships. We've got something called the United Festival Force, which is 7 European festivals. During the pandemic, we had the European Metal Festival Alliance, which we formed, which was those 7 festivals, and then a few more came along as well, because we wanted to give something back to the fans and sort of put a show on, and that's where that streaming sort of show came from. And every festival, was tasked with bringing in 2 or 3 bands that would do that show as a stream, and that went well. And it was just a way of sort of trying to keep the festivals and support the festivals when they were independent. Prior to that, and obviously since that as well, the United Festival Force is maintained. So there's a relationship with Bloodstock, Summer Breeze, Brutal Assault, Alcatraz, Leyendas del Rock, and a few more, where we talk regularly. We engage with each other about bands, and what we've tried to create is effectively an August performance window. So bands that can, when they're sort of planning what they're going to do, where they're going to go out in each year, the following year. Traditionally, there's always been the June window where you've got your Hellfests and Downloads and your big festivals like that, Grasspop and whatnot, which is kind of June, early July. Whereas now we've got this late July, early mid-August window, which is a secondary window that they can come over to now, where we all work together and we talk about the offers we can make, and sometimes we'll make a combined offer that works particularly well for a band, because we can give them 3 or 4 or 5 shows that traditionally they might not have been able to secure before. So yeah, it's become very, very important and quite critical that we've got a good friendship with a number of independent promoters that we work well with. We know Thomas and everyone at Wacken. We've known them for years and years and years, and we talk with them quite regularly as well. So from a promoter's point of view, I think having friendships is vital, is very important. And I think where there's no cross purposes, and certainly where you've got different countries involved, I think that's a great thing, because it's allowing us to talk about bands and share bands. And we've sent bands to different festivals. We've taken bands from different festivals and sort of put them on our bill to sort of showcase them to our audience. And I think that's something that's important to do, because we've all got different territories and we've all got different likes. And I think some bands in some countries are bigger than they are in another country. So it's good to be able to sort of share that resource and sort of spread that offering.
And what do you think about tribute bands for festivals? In your case, in Bloodstock.
We have tribute bands on our VIP stage, which is like a bit of a sort of an entertainment stage for our VIP fans. There are shows in the UK that specifically do tribute bands, and I think if people are buying tickets for that, then that's great, because they're buying that with advanced knowledge that they're going to see not the real thing, but ultimately a sort of a tribute of. For me personally, sorry, dog's making noises. Me personally, I think for festivals it should be original bands that are on the main stages, and that's what people are paying to see. They're paying to see the uniqueness of originality, and I think it should be that. But if your event is geared around tribute acts, then that's fine, because people have got that advance notice to do that. I think there's enough bands out there that you don't necessarily need tribute acts as a festival. I think there's plenty of talent out there, and I think those bands with original music need to have that platform, which we offer.
Yeah. So, here in Spain, for example, I think most of the biggest heavy metal festivals used to close the day with that kind of bands, like Metallica tribute or Iron Maiden tribute or whatever big bands tribute, because I'm agree with you about to give an opportunity to that maybe new bands or another kind of bands, but it's also good for the people, because it's a way to end the party,
Yeah.
At least if you are I don't know what time ends Bloodstock. Here in Spain, for example, the festivals used to end at 2, 3, even 4 a.m. and people is drunk and they just want to sing the hits of all time. So
the way we work is again, we've got licensing and sound control that we have to have in place for the UK shows, which is quite strict. So the live bands on the main stage finishes at 11 p.m. But then what we have is we have both our VIP area and then we have our second stage, which is a huge, great big top, that goes on playing music until 3 a.m. And we put DJs on there, and their job quite simply is to get that frenzy out of the crowd, get them tired, get them dancing, get them singing, and exactly what you say, doing the big hits, but not necessarily in a live band sort of footing. It's recorded stuff. For our slots we have, which obviously are a little bit probably more limited than Europe, than with our timing, because we have to shut it down at 11 a.m. for the live music. It's important to us that those slots are filled with original bands.
Okay. And the social media are very important right now for festivals, but the social media has that negative point that are all the people has the true reasons are they are all against everything the festival, not Bloodstock, every festival does. How do you deal with the negative comments on social media, because there are a lot and you can't control that?
No, you can't. And I think, if you start to moderate the voice of your fans and of your public, that's seen, and people lose confidence and faith in your ability to talk. We're very, very open with our fans. We don't hide behind a corporate office or anything else like that. We do Facebook Lives quite regularly, where we'll have an open conversation. We answer pretty much every question we get. So if somebody's got a gripe or they've got a concern, and you are going to get times where people don't like what's going on. They don't like a band you've booked, or an experience, or we're not delivering this or that, or whatever else it might be personal to them. If we can't deliver something, we explain why. We don't just say, no, it's not happening, go away, you're only one person. We'll engage with every single person, regardless of what that question or query might be, where possible. It's not always, we're not always going to pick up on every single band question, because there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
But where it's an operational question, where it's about whether it be facilities or whatever else it may be, or can you do this, or why don't you do that? We'll engage with everybody as much as possible on that. And I think it's important that you seem to be open and upfront and honest. No one's going to sit here and say, I will give you every answer you want to hear, because that would be wrong. But what I will do is I'll tell you everything as it is as fact. Whether you agree with it or not, well, that's on you. That's not on me. But if I can't do something, I'm not doing it just because I want to try and annoy you. I'm doing it because it's not workable. It can't be doing, whether it's cost efficient or practical to do, whatever else it may be. So I just think it's important to engage. Don't run away. Don't hide. We don't look to make excuses for things, but we will explain fact as we see it. And that fact sometimes will differ from someone else's opinion. But you can't agree with everything with everybody. And I think overall, because we do it that way, we have an allegiance and alliance then with a lot of fans that will also not jump on our side, but they will also add reason to cause. So they'll get involved, and the fans almost at this point now police themselves. So when people come up with comments or statements, whether they're true or not, we're fortunate enough that our audience tend to sort of moderate that quite well for us, and we'll interject and we'll add sort of value where we can do to any comments or statements.
And the last stuff of the interview, in a personal way, how has your life changed since you are the director of a big festival like now?
It's kind of weird, because for me, I'm the same person I've always been. I'm happy-go-lucky kind of guy, talk to anybody, and I don't consider myself better or different than anybody else, regardless of what they do. We've on the show weekend, I guess you get a glimpse of fame, I guess, because people who go to Bloodstock, who know the festival, who are fans, and I'm sure other promoters get the same thing when they're on the forefront of their audience, as we tend to be, you get recognized a lot. And that's really humbling, and it's really, really nice, but it's also a little bit embarrassing, because I don't consider myself any different than the next person. I just do a different job. That's it. But it's great to engage, and it's nice, and it's something I do full time. I was able to quit my normal 9-to-5 job about 4 or 5 years ago and concentrate purely on the festival, and that's given me a better standard and a better quality of life, because I do have a little bit more time with the family that ordinarily I didn't have when I was doing a day job and the festival, which is the same for everybody else that works for Bloodstock, whether they've been able to sort of leave that job or not. But There's only myself and Rachel at the moment that work on Bloodstock full time. Everybody else is sort of still doing day jobs and other stuff. So, you know, it's a bit of a labor of love, but we all go through the same thing. You know, we're just in awe about the fact that we've got an amazing show with an amazing fan base that you know, really generally in the whole appreciative of what we do. And I think everybody that puts on festivals or shows in a promoted way, if you do it well, will feel the same way. You'll feel special for doing what you do.
And have you felt that maybe some people, I don't know from what side of the industry, from another promoters of bands or even people not close friends but not close friends that has went to you for interest?
What you mean, sort of just asking help, advice, that type of thing, or do you mean?
Yeah, if people, you have felt that people now wants to be your friend because you are the director of a festival, you know?
I think you're going to get that really well, you know, not just because you're a festival. I think anybody that's got something of worth, I think is going to attract, you know, a certain sort of type of person that wants to be aligned with that. But that's no different than, you know, I guess, you know, somebody that's in movies or music or anything else. There's always going to be an allegiance of people that want to be friends of that person because of what they do. It's not for me to judge whether that's the reason or not. I'm a very friendly, open kind of guy that, you know, will treat everybody the same regardless of who they are. You know, I know a lot of music artists and I've met them over the years and I talk to them as friends. I don't talk to them as gods or anything else. And I've been very, very fortunate enough that I've been in a position where I've been able to do that and sort of talk to people that ordinarily, you know, I'm a fan. Let's not kid ourselves. I've been a fan of these bands for years, but I tend to look at them slightly differently now as people rather than just objects to be heralded, I guess. You know, so I'm fortunate enough I've had that experience from the other side, and I kind of see how it can be overwhelming sometimes. And I think people of certain stature probably just want to be treated the same as everybody else and a bit normal. So I try and do that with everybody. So whether you're famous or whether you're, you know, a fan of Bloodstock or a band, I'll try and interact and talk to everybody in exactly the same way. So I would like to think people want to be friends with me because of who I am. There's obviously going to be a case that it's not, you know, people are going to want to be friends with you because of Bloodstock, and I get that. But could I pick out who those people are? Probably not, no. You know, they'll know who they are, but that's down to them.
And the organization of a festival is very stressful. And sometimes during the festival, of course, but sometimes when you are in another things, working for the festival, how do you deal with the most stressful situations working for a festival?
Well, I think, you know, we've had times during the festival usually where something sort of drastic can happen, whether it be a certain bit of infrastructure not arriving because it's been damaged en route or something else, you know, and I think panicking and stressing about it won't fix anything. So we have a different mentality of looking at things as challenges. So when something does happen and you can only deal with one thing at a time, you can't multitask and deal with a million things effectively. So we prioritize, deal with the most important thing first, get that dealt with, and then move on to the next. We're fortunate enough, again, that, you know, we're lucky enough that the people around us are very knowledgeable and we have a lot of contacts who have a lot of contacts. So we've always got somebody we can talk to who, if we don't have the answers, we probably know somebody who will be able to get us an answer on something. And there's always a way around things. So yeah, you know, it is challenging, it is stressful, it is hard work at times. Equally, there are times that are extremely rewarding that kind of balance then that stress and that hard time. And you've got to be in your own mind aware that those good times are around the corner. So if you've got an issue to deal with now, just deal with the issue, talk to the people you need to talk to, get it dealt with, and don't try and look at things as being overly stressed and sort of panic about things. I think a calm, level head will fix most things. So, you know, most people who see me at the festival, I'm not stressing on the surface. I'm not running around like an idiot or screaming at people or anything else. I get the most out of people by talking to them as people, as equals, you know, and between us, you know, and myself and Rachel and the whole team, We've got a great team of people that just know how to rise to a challenge and fix things. So yeah, generally that's how it tends to work. It's how your mindset is, I guess. And you've got to have a calm mindset if you're putting on a festival, because anything can happen at any particular time, and you've got to try and solutionize that there and then.
That's nice, and congratulations, because that kind of attitude is not the same with all the promoters on the festivals teams. I can tell you, at least
We're
here
all
in
people.
Spain.
Well, we're all people. We all
Yeah.
handle things differently. You know, for us, we found this works particularly well. If we have a problem, the easiest way of dealing with it is just by talking to people, and you know, between us, we find a resolve and we get on with it.
Yeah. And the last question, what's the next step for Bloodstock Festival?
For Bloodstock, I think we're in a unique situation where we're very, very happy where we are at the moment. You know, we're the right size, we're manageable, we're not looking to be the biggest festival in the UK or anything else like that. You know, we're never going to sort of look to try and compete with, you know, the big players out there. You know, what we do, we think we do it very, very well. We think we deliver something unique, and we have a USP, a certain sort of magic that people enjoy, and we don't want to tamper with that too much. As far as where we go from here, maybe we start looking at doing tours, maybe we start looking at doing other shows in maybe another country, and you know, take the model of Bloodstock. You know, is there an appetite overseas for a Bloodstock overseas somewhere? You know, they're conversations we can have, and we'll see where that goes. But it's important that if we do that, we replicate what we have here, because what we have here works very, very well for here. And if we just put the Bloodstock branding out in somewhere else and it's not the same show, it's not Bloodstock.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's important to us as well. But you know, whether that happens next year, year after that, we'll see. But you know, we're always looking to see how we can deliver the best possible show for the August window that we do Bloodstock in. Anything over and above that, we'll talk about as it happens.
So let's see, and good luck with all your your current projects and your future projects.
Thank you very much appreciated.
So, well, Adam, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure to talk with you and to know more about Bloodstock Festival. And do you have a message for your Spanish fans, or from wherever, who will see the interview?
If you've not been, you know, it's worth a trip. It's worth coming over for, you know, and sort of just see how the UK works and how Bloodstock certainly works. You know, we do try and set ourselves away from the normal. Have an experience and just come and have a laugh. Bring a coat. It'll probably be a bit colder than Spain, so in August. But yeah, you'll have a great time. So you know, if you've not given it a go, give it a go. Nothing to lose. It's an experience.
So you know, you have a very good festival in the UK, Bloodstock Festival in Derby.
Derby, yeah, Derbyshire, yeah.
And it's not hotter as Spain, so you can be a bit relaxed.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy very, very, very good bands there.
Yes.
So, well, thank you very much. Y nada, a todo el mundo, muchas gracias por haber estado ahí. Ha sido todo un honor tener a una persona tan importante como Adam en esta entrevista, y nos vemos en las próximas. A ver si tenemos alguno en España o algún otro país. Pero bueno, siempre es un placer contar con este tipo de invitados. Así que muchas gracias. Hasta la próxima.